please read the notice regarding electronic participation?
Sure will. Pursuant to Governor Whitmer's Executive Order 2020-154, Finance and Fiscal Resource Committee of the Kent County Board of Commissioners, in order to protect the public health, will conduct its meeting via electronic communications. Any member of the public wishing to listen to the proceedings or provide comment may do so by using the internet connection or phone numbers and passcode as listed on the agenda. It was also mailed out. If you want to make public comment, you can also send an email to publiccomment@kentcountymi.gov. Anyone disrupting the meeting by using offensive language or offensive actions will be removed from this meeting. Turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We will go ahead and open for public comment. Is there any public comment we have? We'll give it a minute.
I don't see any messages in the inbox. And I don't see any hands that are raised at the moment.
I'm still going to give that a few extra minutes.
Okay.
Thanks. All right, do we have anything?
Still don't see anything.
All right, let's go ahead and move to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there support?
Support by Woodman. Oh.
I heard, is it support by Wooden?
Yeah, I believe so, or Voorhees, dealer's choice.
Okay, we'll go with support by Wooden. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure can. Commissioner Antor.
Yes.
Commissioner Breivy.
Yes.
Commissioner Bolkowski. Commissioner Bolkowski. Commissioner Bolkowski.
I saw Commissioner Bolkowski, but I didn't hear him. So there might be technical difficulties. Yes, he's trying to say yes.
Trying to say yes. Okay.
Notes.
Commissioner Morgan.
Yes.
Commissioner Sparks.
Yes.
Commissioner Voorhees.
Yes.
Commissioner Womack.
Yes.
Commissioner Wooden.
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Thank you. Let's go to item number 3 from the Administrator's Office, the 2021 Capital Improvement Program. Wayman, would you please cover the action request?
Yes, this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to approve the administrative CIP project proposal to be included in the county's 2021 budget resolution. The 2021 capital improvement plan requests were reviewed and a recommendation was prepared by staff committee, including representatives from facilities management, information technology, the Sheriff's Department, and fiscal services. The administrator's capital improvement plan proposal was reviewed in detail by the County Board of Commissioners. The proposal includes 40 projects at an anticipated cost of $6.8 million. Financing for the proposal is anticipated to be drawn from the general fund support of $5.9 million and $949,000 from other sources. The board's capital improvement plan policy calls for a minimum of the equivalent of 0.2 mils to be allocated to the CIP budget annually. This general fund support for this 2021 CIP proposal equates to equivalents of 0.225 mils. With the concurrence of the Finance and Fiscal Resources Committee, funding for these projects will be included in the 2021 budget resolution scheduled for board approval in November on the 19th of 2020.
Thank you, Wayman. Is there a motion to approve?
Morgan to approve.
Support by
Barb,
Brady.
support.
I heard support by Brevi and motion by Morgan. So we will have that and open it up for questions, comments, and discussion.
Commissioner Wooden.
Okay, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few questions for Marvin. I had shared these with through direct email conversation ahead of this meeting, and I just wanted to bring them to the committee and to the public. For starters, I also just want to be open and transparent. I plan to vote for this resolution today. Very thankful for the work groups that we had and think that the selection makes a great deal of sense. If anything, I was wondering if Marvin could start off by describing the transfer relationship between the Corrections and Detention Millage Fund and the general fund in this CIP fund, since that dedicated millage does in fact have some relationship with funding CIP projects that are related to our jail and detention center. Could Marvin explain that a little bit to the committee and to the public?
Sure. The correction and detention millage is another general fund resource. Okay, so the correction and detention millage funds the general fund, which in turn funds the CIP projects. It has been done in the past where the correction and detention millage fund would fund projects directly, and it does do so for intermediate projects that are emergent that come forth mid-year. But from a process standpoint, we have taken the approach of the correction and detention millage fund funds the general fund, which in turn funds the projects, just because it's a more simplified way to do the accounting. It involves less transactions and it's a little more efficient. To do it the other way, it's exact same thing. Net result is exactly the same.
Thank you. And then my other question was, could you explain a little bit what the current fund balance is for the correction and detention millage, as well as how it compares to its minimum, and talk a little bit more about the schedule for how that fund balance will be spent down currently.
Okay. The current fund balance in the correction and detention millage fund is $13 million as of the end of 2020. That's the estimated at the end of 2020, excuse me. I don't have the exact off the top of my head here without going to another file, but it's in the range of about $13 million. We have a plan from 2021 to 2030 to spend those resources down, which would result in approximately $18.4 million transferred to the general fund in 2021, and that would escalate to approximately $23 million in 2030 when the millage expires. At that point in time, we would have about $10 million in fund balance, which would be reserved to fund the final 6 years of debt service from 2031 to 2036. The minimum required fund balance, according to our guideline, is the equivalent of the subsequent year's debt service, which equates to approximately $4 million.
Thank you. And so, it's significantly higher, but if I recall in the schedule that you shared with me, and maybe we can have that shared to the committee members and the other members of the commission after this, essentially the current fund balance goes down to about 8.5 come 2031, and then because there is a staff decision not to assume that the current millage will be renewed, that's essentially the money held over to pay the remainder of the bonds, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. So, if anything, thank you, Marvin, for those answers. If anything, the one comment I have is seeing that there is a transfer relationship between the corrections and detention millage, the general fund, as well as the CIP. and that administration, at least finance, is saying that direct transfers can occur. It just involves a few more accounting steps. I would prefer it that we have a more direct relationship and have that more clearly highlighted in both our CIP policy as well as in our CIP documents, and mainly for the sake of transparency. You know, I consider myself someone who pays pretty close attention to our financial documents, seeing that that's a responsibility of this committee. And this one took a few iterations for me to fully understand that relationship, and I can only imagine to the public what that could look like. And feel that having the direct transfer relationship between the jail and detention millage to the CIP for jail-related capital expenses would just make more sense from a transparency standpoint, and also could help potentially free up other general fund dollars for other capital projects that certainly are deserving, but because we have a limited amount of general fund dollars we seek to put into capital projects in our varying needs, this could help ensure that we're making the most of our general fund dollars for capital projects, and again, being transparent in the relationship between the detention millage and the CIP. Thank you.
Commissioner Bukowski?
Go ahead, Commissioner Bukowski.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Sorry about my previous technical difficulties. First, want to thank Wayman and staff for providing the one-pager on the zoo CIP history. I'll just say or ask if you have that at the ready next May, so I don't have to ask the question again, because my filing system at home leaves something to be desired. Second, I just want to express my dismay that, you know, we raised via the surcharge on phones or phone lines, you know, the 911 surcharge, you know, what, $28 million and $142,000 of expense, in my perspective, is directly related to dispatch, meaning the dispatch councils isn't an allowable expense under that or for the dispatch authority. I scratch my head that why, you know, what is that? I'm looking forward to a future report from the dispatch authority to maybe get a better idea of what they are spending their dollars on or have spent their dollars on, where something as important as the council for the dispatchers to be sitting at is not covered by the dispatch authority. So again, it's a needed expense. It passed the gauntlet of our CIP process. Again, I'm just dismayed it has to come through this. So I'll leave that there.
Wayman, do we have Sheriff on the line?
Sure, yes, she's on the line, I believe. I think I heard her
I am.
voice earlier.
I am. I just unmuted.
Would you like to address that?
I can address it. I don't have any decision-making authority on what is allowed and what isn't. And Commissioner Morgan is also on the call as well, who sits on the board. But they have set priorities as a dispatch authority, and just really specifically the new passed surcharge was very specifically passed for the communication system, which I'll remind everybody is about $25 million that should go online at the latter part of this year and then go operational first part of next year. That has been bonded against future revenues from the surcharge. So that project is underway, and we have had most of the expense related to that, building towers and such. And also fire dispatch was designated for the increase in surcharge. So the increased surcharge wouldn't have been the source for that. However, the initial 45 cents potentially could have been, but those funds have been designated to facilitate call taking. And in the dispatch authority's perspective, and again, I'm not part of this decision making. There's a finance committee that weighs in on it, but in their perspective, this is an expense we would have had regardless of the consolidated dispatch. And we do collect revenues to dispatch for several other agencies. They believe it to be part of that cost. So there are a lot of costs that are not covered by the dispatch authority. And in fact, only our 911 call system, the phone system itself, the CAD, and now the radio system are funded in any way by the dispatch authority, except for the contract we have to answer calls.
Thank you. Commissioner Bulkowski, did you have any follow-up on that?
Well, I don't know if Commissioner Morgan wanted to weigh in before I made my comment that it seems like sitting at a council is a pretty standard prerequisite for the call-taking function if it's focused on the call-taking function. Yeah, maybe it was my assumption early on that the various millages and surcharges, or they're all surcharges, are paying more for the dispatch process than I, again, assumed. It just seems like we're holding the bag for various entities out there. I mean, I know that we, save significant dollars on the fire dispatch costs via this surcharge for all municipalities, townships, villages, cities. And then now we have to pay $142,000 so our people can sit at desks to take these calls. So again, I mean, it's not, the cost of the desk required part of business. And yeah, the county's going to just keep getting, I don't want to say nickel and dime to death within dispatch, but it's like, I'll just be quiet and leave my disgust there.
Well, I'd like to weigh in. This is Morgan, if I can.
Please go ahead, Commissioner Morgan.
Okay, well, as we started setting up this system, there's only so many dollars to go around, and there are some things that just didn't make the priority for funding, like the sheriff said. We're concentrating now on the call taking component and trying to build the towers to get the system up and running. So unfortunately, there's going to be some additional costs to all the municipalities that participate. It's just, there's only just so much money. So I take Commissioner Bulkowski's comments very seriously, and we have a chance to weigh in at a future date. Maybe we can look at those priorities.
Thank you,
Okay.
Commissioner Morgan.
All right, is there any other comments for item 3 on the agenda from the commissioners?
No other hands raised.
All right,
No other
Pam,
hands.
would you please take a roll call vote?
Certainly. Commissioner Antor,
Yes.
Commissioner Brady,
Yes.
Commissioner Bulkowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan,
Yes.
Commissioner Sparks,
Yes.
Commissioner Voorhees,
Yes.
Commissioner Womack,
Yes.
Commissioner Wooden,
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Thank you. We will go on to item number 4 from the Sheriff's Office, the Sheriff Jail Video Camera CIP project. Wayman, would you please read the
Yes.
action request item?
Yes, this is a request to appropriate $450,000 for the 2020 Correction and Detention Fund budget from Correction and Detention Fund reserves for transfers of the Sheriff's Jail Video Camera project in the 2020 Capital Improvement Plan budget. The correctional facility currently has a video system that covers most of the facility. The system was installed with the construction of the 1992 edition, sorry. The current system has been well maintained throughout the years, but it's now failing. And at the end of its useful life, for safety and liability reasons, it is critical that the entire system be replaced at this time. The Board of Commissioners previously appropriated $190,000 to do an incremental replacement of the jail video camera system via Resolution 1129/2018-98. The cost to replace the entire system is $640,000. It's recommended that $450,000 be appropriated to the 2020 Correction and Detention Fund budget from the Correction and Detention Fund reserves for transfer to the Sheriff's Jail Video Camera Project in the 2020 CIP Fund budget.
Thank you, Wayman. Is there a motion to approve?
Moved by Wooden.
Support by
By
Breezy.
Sparks.
Okay, we have moved in support. Now we'll take questions, comments, and discussion. Wayman, do we have any hands?
Commissioner Wooten.
Okay, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just pointing out, as Marvin did in my questions on the previous item, this shows that we can, in fact, directly transfer funds from the Correction and Detention Fund budget to the CIP fund. Yes, it has an additional layer of accounting transactions, but as I mentioned previously, I just think this may be a better practice for the sake of transparency to put into our fiscal policy that any correction, jail, detention center facility related CIP expenses are paid through a transfer of this fund when doing so does not jeopardize its own fiscal standing, rather than having the larger bulk transfer from the general fund be considered an indirect support of jail related CIP investments. Just personally think it's more transparent, and just see this as an example of why that can be done, and why I'll be voting for this measure.
Hey, anyone else?
No other hands raised.
No other hands.
All right, can we get a roll call vote, please, Pam?
Sure. Commissioner Infor,
Yes.
Commissioner Breedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bulkowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan,
Yes.
Commissioner Sparks,
Yes.
Commissioner Voorhees,
Yes.
Commissioner Womack,
Yes.
Commissioner Wooden,
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes.
That motion passes.
All right. We have Commissioner Bulkowski's hands up for miscellaneous, so let's open Melissa. We'll just go with Commissioner
Miscellaneous.
Bulkowski for miscellaneous.
Thank you, Chair. Hey, I've been remiss in inviting you all to tomorrow's virtual celebration of the 30th anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Disability Advocates is hosting it once again. We're usually out at Kentwood Library and the amphitheater there, but of course with COVID and such, we're going to be virtual tomorrow at 5:30. When I'm back in my office, I'll forward the invitation to Pam to get out to everybody. Yeah, if you can join us 5:30 to 6:30 online. Sorry, no food this year. Hopefully next year we'll be able to join together outside.
Thank you. Anybody else?
No other hands, Diane.
Okay, let's just take a minute, Wayman, and address Commissioner Wooden's comments on the CIP flow regarding the corrections millage. You know, I'm sure it's something that we can investigate. Maybe we can detail a little bit more why we've done it the way we've done it over the years, Wayman?
Sure, we can provide also the information that Marvin has provided. I think that has a lot of good detail. We can share that with the rest of the board. And if there are other questions beyond that, we'll take the comments today and add to that good information that Marvin provided and send that out to everyone. I think that's a helpful piece, and then we can draw questions from that. I think that would be a great way to do that. Share it with the entire board.
So, I mean, just from my memory, we do take general fund for corrections, or is it always right from the corrections millage?
It has not always been, and that was the point that Commissioner Wooten mentioned earlier. There are
Right.
times when we've actually pulled from the general fund to offset the expenses related to the jail. However, it doesn't mean that it precludes that we shouldn't do that in the future. So I think he makes a good point. We will always look at first where we can draw other dollars for these activities. But I think the process that we've used in the past simply is where's the best way to draw these dollars? Does it make sense to include them in the general fund budget allocation as opposed to the CIP process as opposed to what we did today? So it's really a question of how solid the correction detention fund appears to be and whether or not this is something that would be deemed a correctional detention millage expense that we should pull from. So we've got to be careful that we don't pull from that fund on activities and expenses that are non-related to the corrections facility and juvenile detention. That's where we make the line. We draw the line. We try, and we've done it before, where we've actually pulled from the corrections detention millage to take care of some expenses. We just want to be careful. We don't want to get in any bad way with our bonding responsibility. So I don't know, Jeff, or if Jeff is on the line. Jeff, you want to add to that?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Sure. So part of the reason, I've been talking to Marvin a lot about this. Part of the reason we've done it this way, it wouldn't necessarily, we don't feel, free up any additional general fund if we did a direct transfer, because it would, the amount available in the general fund wouldn't be there because of that support. So that's one piece. I'm not sure it would change the overall outcome of the capital program. Secondly, one of the main reasons they do it this way is so the CIP projects for the correction and detention center compete alongside the rest of the project. So we feel if it's directly funded through that millage, there may be less scrutiny on the project. So this way we stand them all up together. They're all ranked together based upon the criteria and all compete based upon the merits of each capital. So that's kind of the thinking behind some of that, why it's gone this way.
Okay, I saw Commissioner Wooden. Did you have another comment?
No, nothing to add, except that is a valid point that doing so allows there to be greater competition between the projects. If anything, it just appears that there's almost always a very there always seems to be a valuable capital expense at the jail. Some piece of equipment, something within the detention facility is run out of its useful life, and so I would have to pause with that idea that this allows for the greater competition when it appears that there's almost always a fairly significant line item for the correction center. But thank you again.
Okay, is there any other miscellaneous?
No other hands up, Chair Jones.
All right, then we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Chair.